we're already in November. So today's the first one of November. And then tomorrow we do our CDMP Q&A. So if you would like to know more about the certification and some tips and tricks for your exam, that's at 10 o'clock in the morning, South African Standard Time. So please join us. It's with me, and I'll take you through the entire process. And then on the 6th, we have data modeling. That's with Corné Potgieter. He'll be discussing pragmatic
data vault.
Those words. So please join us, and we'll carry on with the Data Vault series. On the 8th, we have data privacy. I think it will be on creating PI. I know she had a different topic for November, but we sadly had to postpone last month, so I think it will be on creating PI. So please join us that. Caroline Motan will do that. And then on the 9th, we start our new webinar series, and that will be data storytelling for the different data personas. So we'll have Yule join us, and she is a director and cinematographer, and she's going to bring her film knowledge into how we can do storytelling for data. So please join us for that. Every Thursday, it will be in the different viewpoint of a data persona. On the 15th, we have the Dame SA user group. I'm trying to remember who did it, who's linked in for that. On the 20th, we have Big Data Science. That's with Drew Kennedy. And yeah, then we'll continue. Oh, yes, the 15th is with Costa Iotis. He'll be sharing his new book.
That's right.
Yes, I was really stressing that I didn't have someone booked for then. Yeah, and he was a data ethics officer, and he was a diplomat. So it'll be all about diplomacy to Ouzo, as he owned Greek restaurants. So that will be really great. So please join us for that. And then in December, we have just a few. So we'll carry on with the CDMP Q&A until the 15th. And then on the 4th, we have data modeling. And then on the 6th, we have our DMSA user group, which is with Di. She is with us. And she'll be continuing this discussion with the implementation framework. And she's all about that data quality. So please join us for that. That will be great. And then we'll have our final data privacy webinar on the 13th and our final Q&A on the 15th. And then we do take a break with the webinars. So we won't have any webinars in January, and we'll be back in February for all of our webinars. So please join us for the last few ones before the end of 2023, excuse me. Alrighty. Now, I know I've shown you the statistics a few times, but here they are again. So congratulations to everyone if you've newly written your exam. It's really great, and we would love to help you. If you'd like to know how to become an associate or practitioner or master, we would love to help you through that journey. You can join me on the Q&A to learn more. So if you want to get your associate, we have 2 slots left, 2 chances left before the end of 2023. Our next one is next week, if I'm not, no, it's 2 weeks from now. So there's still time to join our 4-day fundamental course. With that, there's a pre and post assessment. You'll get over 750 practice questions. The entire DM block is summarized, so you'll get some summarized study notes, and there's study groups as well and mind maps. So if you'd like to join us, we'll be happy to have you. And then we'll have the 4th to the 7th of December. And then we take January off as well, and we'll be back in Feb. So if you'd like to join us, I'll drop my email in the chat, and you can feel free to drop a message. We will be changing the prices in 2024, sadly due to inflation. So if you would like to get 2023's prices, chat to me, and we can do that before the end of the year. Then we have the CDMP DIY. Oh, sorry, that went a bit fast. So if you would like a refresher course, if you need to rewrite, or you've been working with the DMBOK for many years and you just need a short refresher, we have this product for you. This you can build yourself. So if you don't want all of these options, you can get the things you want. So if you only want the video recording and the quizzes and the practice exams, you can build your own DIY. And I'll be happy to share more information with you. The full product is $99. And then we have this superhero speedy specialist quizzes. It was live yesterday and we have continued it for today. So if you would like to test your specialist knowledge, there's 8 knowledge area, 8 knowledge areas that you can question or answer questions for, and there's 15 questions per knowledge area. So if you would like to test your knowledge, that's still available today, and I'll be happy to share the links. I'll actually just drop them in the chat, and if you'd like to try, go for it. Then for your specialist exams, we can help you with these courses. So we have these ones coming up here, the dates. So how to model data, that's Steve Hoberman's data modeling class. That is from the 20th to the 24th of November. We have a 3-day data governance course, and then we have a 2-day data quality course. So please join us if you'd like to join that. And then we have our how to analyze data, which is data warehousing, BI, and data science. That's in Feb. And then our data architecture course is from the 12th to the 16th of Feb. The data architecture CDMP exam has not been released yet, but if you would like to build your knowledge, and this is all very practical training, so you can apply your problems at your workspace currently and be able to find some good solutions during our training. I'll be happy to share more information. And that's everything from me. So thank you all so much. And over to you, Howard.
Fantastic. Thanks, Debs. Okay, just sharing my screen. Okay, great. Just to share with you that I'm approaching the end of my, what's it, the 11th framework that I built. I have 14 frameworks to build for a customer. And it was, I'd love to tell you the journey. The data quality probably was the easiest of all domains because they had almost 11 different implementation frameworks. And as I progressed along all of the domains, it got harder framework. So, I mean, as you know, the focus is not on the overall framework. The focus is on the execution part, the how-to, as Dai was saying. So when I got to things, even data architecture, even to an extent data governance, trying to find an implementation architecture for data governance that's gone past the data strategy, maturity assessment, operating model, and now it's really just about executing use cases. It's not that easy. And I have Paul on here who's helping me on the data governance side. Paul, just some experience on your side in trying to find a execution framework. How have you found that in terms of reaching out on the internet and trying to find people that give you advice on doing these type of things?
Yeah, as you've just said, and you know, because you're with me on the journey, it's been tough. There's a number of bloggers, there are a number of frameworks that, you know, conceptualize the whole framework, and not, but really light on the implementation side. So as you know, I've been battling a bit trying to get because I keep lifting up to the whole thing instead of that focus on the use case. So it's been tough, but yeah, it's been, but also a good journey because it's an opportunity to carve something out, which is great.
Okay. So this is maybe just to repeat those that essential concept. What we are saying. So why my web page is not going? Okay, let's try this now. Okay. Fantastic. I wonder what happened there. All right, so just a quick recap on the essential frameworks of an implementation framework. So this, for example, is not the data governance framework, it's just the implementation. And if we relate it to the de-embark on data quality, it's not the whole data quality domain, it's that plan, do, check, act. And I'm sure you all remember plan, do, check, act. The plan phase is when you've got a whole lot of data quality issues. So you've been in operation at the moment, you've done assessments and things like that. And now you've got a whole lot of batches of data products and data quality issues. And now the idea is to say, using the Pareto principle, to say which 20% can I tackle now to get an 80% improvement. Okay, please don't go for the 100%. Don't go for perfect or clean. It's probably one of the downfalls of many programs is when we go for perfect and everything sorted out. So you want to get to that 20% that gives you an 80% uplift. Okay, so just want to take you to the framework, the implementation framework. Okay, it's intended to serve as support or guide for building of something that expands into a structure. Okay, or it's a conceptual model for implementing a plan. Guides involved in the implementation process. So it's not the planning, it's not the change, it's not all of that stuff. It's about implementation. Okay. Definition further. This is finally what I'd like to share with you, the difference between a policy and an implementation. The policy is on the what and what not. Okay, the implementation framework is on the how-to strategy, the implementation strategy, how to sequence all of the procedures that to give you a successful implementation. Okay, that's what we refer to as a implementation framework. And interestingly enough, it doesn't really feature in the DMBOK. If one looks at, for example, data quality, and you look at the essential concepts and the context diagram, you don't really see plan, do, check, act. Di, I don't know how you've been finding it. Almost a case of let's try to get an understanding of how to execute. Are you seeing a similar thing, Di, that we're just sort of stepping out of the DMBOK zone?
Yeah, 100%, Howard. I mean, I am continually confused by the DMBOK. I mean, it's a great piece of work. It is, but it doesn't suit me, and I'll maybe share that with you in December. But I want to relate it to how how we do this stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Fantastic. So that's really what we're focusing on. We're trying to make it, how do we ensure successful implementation? That's our key behind this message. So this is sort of where I've positioned it. So we have the guiding principles, which are important, and then you have your policies. And then there's almost this gap between policy and procedure, where you're now just building basically a whole lot of procedures to deliver, to actually create all the deliverables. And then we've got some level of grouping, right, in terms of the DMBOK, where we have the different activity phases. And so we go through that flow. And so this is where I've positioned it. I've positioned implementation framework before you get to the procedures. I'm saying this is your strategy for implementing those procedures and sequencing those procedures. And of course, the guidelines, what the guidelines are there to do is they're almost there to put into word, put into a description, tips and tricks. How do we implement, how do we execute the methods? Okay. All right, so this is just a description. We've got the high level whys that we do it. Then we've got the what to do in terms of the policy, what not to do. Then we've got a structured approach to translating policies into actionable procedures. And then we've got the how to do it, and then tips and tricks. So if you keep that structure in terms of defining your data management practice, okay, you're going a long way. All right, so just to now go back in terms of any questions on what we mean by an implementation framework. Is there anyone not certain or not sure? Have I not? Is there anything that I've left confusing or haven't defined properly? And data governance is one of those challenging ones because lots of it's about oversight. Okay, and that's the case of it's not executing, it's oversight. So how does data governance fit into having a strategy for executing? Yeah, maybe just for me to stop talking for a while. Is there anyone who would like to ask any questions? Okay. All right, so we've gone through framework examples. I've now got 11 of them defined in Excel templates. So if anyone wants to reach out and say, oh, do you have something for open data? I even had to do something for freedom of information, DII, RMD, data quality, every single domain, data value realization, data governance. So that's the journey that I've been on for the last 4 weeks. It takes me, on average, about 3 days to go from researching all the thought leaders, TOGAF, everyone, John Zachman, Tom Redman, all the different people, and then bring it to a framework for implementation. Okay. All right, so we went through all the data management manager. He's just trying to make sure that he sponsors this effort, that everyone is understanding how to execute and is trained on the how to execute. Then we go into the data citizens. They are the ones that are generally providing a lot of the input and consuming the output. They're not really responsible for the doing. The data management professional, that's their life. That's what they're all about. And I suppose that's probably where you relate to. It's a case of saying, well, I'm about executing, I'm about delivering. So policies are not really that interesting to me. It's how do I execute? Okay. So the last one now is this data executive. So what benefit does the data executive get and what should they be focusing on? Okay. So for me, the reason that they should be so interested in the implementation framework is that's the one that gives us the success. That's the one that demonstrates that this data management organization can deliver and deliver quickly and smartly and effectively. Okay, so the two important ones for the exec is going to be the data management ROI, not the data ROI. So we're not talking about, oh, what's the value of a data set? We're talking about the quicker and faster and more transformative, and I'm going to show you some of these issues, the more I can work as a team and to deliver something almost like the CMM model, the better for the organization. Okay, so do I have the right set of skills and resources? And then this last one I refer to as organizational memory. And this is another word for knowledge management. And even this week, I know I think Amal was on the course. I think that's the same Amal. A lot of it's about when we document these procedures, when we provide this implementation strategy, it is about now talking to the specialists, talking to the professionals and getting what's in their head in terms of how to do a successful logical model, conceptual model, physical model, or data quality assessment. How do we get it from their heads onto a piece of paper, onto a set of processes that can be executed so that when other people come into the department or come into the organization, they have a place to go to. And it's not, oh, quickly, let me open up Google, top 10 tricks on building a data quality profile or doing a data quality assessment. And that doesn't always fit with the way we do things. So there's the challenge that we have. Google's fantastic, but sometimes it then creates many ways of doing something and your organizational memory becomes a problem. And what we also have to be very clear on here is that please remember when somebody resigns, okay, so when Arpit resigns or when Dai resigns or whatever it is, typically they get given a month. That's the notice that they give, and then they leave. At that stage, it is impossible. And I was going to say almost impossible, but I'd like to change that to say it is impossible to get everything, all the successful ways of doing things, all the techniques, and get it onto a set of procedures that can be run and we can implement it. We just can't do it. So if we're not doing it every time we execute, every time we run a procedure, we're not going to win. We're not going to succeed in that. We've got to do the procedure, do it according to a way of work, and then at the end we do a retro and we say what didn't work and understand why it's not working, talk to the specialists, what went wrong, well, how do we fix it, and then start looking at, well, what do we change? What of our procedures do we rewrite? Okay, and I believe we then start to perfect the procedures. Okay, so this was quite an interesting, I tried to look for a nice definition of data management ROI. Okay, not data ROI. And here you can see something coming through. The first step in calculating the ROI for data management is to define success for the business, considering the ways both directly and indirectly that data or the data department has made contributions. So how have we contributed? How have we added value in their lives? And that value can come in many different forms. So part of the work involved is considering all the ways in which we are establishing success. So these top areas, effect on cost, effect on revenue, and competitive edge, that's what I consider to be data value. That's not what I'm talking about. It's these two over here. Okay, we're talking about team efficiency and speed to value. How quickly, when we identify an opportunity, can we deliver on that opportunity? Okay, and how quickly can we deal with risks of non-compliance? So, for example, if we have to quickly implement the NDMO P1, P2 specification, how long does it take us? Or do we spend 6 months trying to hire somebody, bring them in, understand what's going on, and then start to execute? So this is our area of focus. Implementation framework gives us this success. Okay, this is the area that we want to focus on. And this is the area that we want to increase in terms of the value to the organization. Okay, so if we look at the scale in terms of implementation framework, from going from the first time that we write an implementation framework and we set it up to the end, or from the left to the right, from zero to hero, the first time what we're trying to do is focus on efficiency. Are we efficient? Have we got time wastage? Is there any way that we can improve what's going on? Almost once we get past efficient, then we have to start looking at effective. And please also note that one of the areas of being efficient is to bring in technology, okay, so that we are being more proactive and we're able to execute faster. But that doesn't mean we are effective. That doesn't mean we are delivering to the business what they want. What they specified as a requirement, and now we start to execute. So there's efficient, effective, and then there's this last one, which we call transformational. So if we are delivering for them and they're comfortable with what they're doing and we're able to demonstrate that we're providing value, then they start getting more interested in bringing us and involving us in their strategy, in their business strategy. And when we get invited to sit at that table where we can use data and data management to achieve competitive edge, that's when we can start calling ourselves transformational, where we start transforming the business. Now, many of you have started hearing this thing called digital transformation, right? So that's sort of just started. And to me, the way I see and explain digital transformation, it's almost bringing together IT and data. So it's all emerging technologies plus the data working together to give us digital transformation. Okay, so but what we'll have to do is actually go through the same steps. So when we start converting all of the paper, all of the manual processes to application technology and data, we're going to have to become efficient at that transformation. Then there's probably a process of being effective. Then the transformation comes on. You don't just jump into transformation. I don't know if any of you have been involved in some of the digital transformation processes. They use that term, and in a way, that term is a little bit misleading because people are expecting transformation when you start. Is there anyone involved in that area? Is anyone in the digital transformation department or responsible for that? We've seen there's lots of crossovers. No one? Okay. All right, so this is the scale we want to go. This is the way we need to measure. Are we efficient? Are we effective? And then are we transforming business? Okay. All right. Now, what I want to share with you is that effective is when we have good practices. The efficient, efficient is good practice. Effective is best practice. Okay, so we've got to be careful of that term best practice. And what I'm suggesting best practice is it's not just that we're doing things well, but we are actually delivering what the business require, best practice. And then gold standard, I don't know if any of you have ever been on an exercise where you have to try to create a gold standard, and that's about being transformational. Okay, when we are differentiating ourselves from everybody around, we've got a way of doing things that no one can keep up with. We're creating a competitive edge. That's what we refer to as a gold standard. This I learned for the first time with a product called Great Plains. Anyone remember Great Plains? It was an accounting system. I think I'm trying to remember the Fargo. That's sort of the area in the US, and they created Great Plains. Many years later, they sold it to Microsoft. And they were the ones, the first time I experienced a situation of they were demanding this gold standard. So when anyone implemented or migrated from their accounting system, Pastel, whatever it was, or Sage, they went on, that's the process and they developed this, almost this transforming migration. And it was a gold standard, and it created lots of demand onto the GP platform, onto the Great Plains platform. That's when I first started hearing about this thing of creating a gold standard. Anyone heard of, or anyone involved in trying to set up a competitive process or competitive edge, the way in which we do things, competitive services? Yeah. All right. So that's the journey we were working on. So really what we're getting to at this point in time is we've got the implementation framework, and now we're starting to get these best practices, good practice, best practice, and gold standard. And then, of course, the constant tips and tricks. Okay, what are we doing that other people aren't doing? What are the shortcuts that we're finding that other people aren't finding? Are we going through and experiencing everything that everybody else is, or have we differentiated ourselves? You know, it's a little bit like the promise of active metadata. Sure, we know how long just manually capturing and dealing with all the metadata is. Now, this active metadata has this big promise of being able to transform businesses and being able to use AI and machine learning models to create all the metadata that we need, to define data products, to build all this stuff. It sounds amazing. And let's see if we get there. But that's a big transformation step where we are not hanging on to the old way and the manual ways of building the appropriate metadata. Okay. So that's what I refer to as data management. That's where the executive needs to be focusing on, constantly pushing the boundaries to when the business recognize that the way in which we do things is a competitive edge. The way in which we manage our data is competitive. And the next one is, in doing this and defining all this stuff, we, in a way, indirectly doing knowledge management. But the thing that I'd like to share with you is that knowledge management also has this continuum from just communicating with each other, to writing it down, to having an agreement or a shared understanding and common behavior, to active collaboration and partnership. What's our partnership look like? Do the business call for us to be working with them? Do they understand the way we work? And how do we work and operate between the leaders and the almost the data owners, data executives, and the data specialists or the subordinates? Now, certainly the military are very far ahead in terms of this knowledge management. They were the ones who created these retros. They were the ones who made that after action report famous. That after action report we use on our procedure execution. we finish a procedure, and then we create an after-action report. And the military used this as gathering intelligence. So they would send people out. Those people would experience what happened in the areas that they had no intelligence about. When they came back, they have a specific knowledge worker that extracts the information from the people that went out. What did they discover? What did they see? What did they notice? That then forms their knowledge and information to help them with effective decision-making, improved flexibility. So they've got to give the people in the mission command an understanding of what's happening on the ground. Now, they actually found that the most effective way was people come back into base, and within an hour, they had to do this after-action report. They couldn't wait for a couple of days or whatever it is. It was within that hour, because I'm sure you know, and I know I was like that when I went into the army. When we came off 6 weeks in the bush, the first time we slept, after that we went drinking, and then maybe 2 days later we were ready to do some work. Okay, so they had this thing of, you come in, you've got an hour, the knowledge manager sits there, creates the report and documents all the intelligence that you collected, everything you noticed, what was going on, and that all was fed back to the mission command. Okay, so what is the purpose of this knowledge management? It's getting the alignment of the people on the ground doing things to mission control or data governance or executives, data management. How did that go? How did we do? How's our implementation framework working? Are we getting the right rates? Are we getting the right throughput? And that's really about discussing the people, process, and technology. How are we working together? Are there areas that we can automate? Then the next area is increasing collaboration between all the stakeholders involved. Making sure that those people that are involved and consulted, that we're getting the right information, and we're going all the way up from our leaders. And remember, that's part of your communication plan. In your implementation framework, every single procedure should have a communication plan. What do I mean by a communication plan? Okay, so if I'm to do a data management maturity assessment or a DMMA, first of all, when do I communicate with the executives? And then once I've communicated with them to say, this is what we're going to do, this is what it's all about, how often do I communicate with them afterwards? Do I only communicate at the end when I do an executive briefing, or do we give them regular updates in terms of saying, okay, we've just done an assessment with this department. This is on average what the feedback is. This is some of the feelings that we're getting. This is how it went. This is how long it took. These are some of the issues. What's the level of communication with these different stakeholders? And of course, please remember, communication plan is about different stakeholder groups, high influence, high interest, low influence, low interest, and all those different 4 quadrants. And we communicate differently with each stakeholder group. Okay. Then after we've done all of this stuff, it's about that producing effective decision-making. Now that we've gathered this feedback, how do we make improved decisions based on the information that we have? Okay. So that's knowledge management. And I really like this diagram of creating shared understanding. And when I saw this diagram, I said, that's exactly what I'm trying to do in terms of get to a level 3. Level 3 of maturity assessment, most people refer to it as defined. And basically what we're saying is defined is standards, policies, procedures are set and are operational in every business unit. And we're doing the same, we're doing it all together with the same understanding and the same behavior. Shared understanding, common behavior. And that's, to me, is almost that knowledge management is sort of taking us from a level 2 to a level 3, and we're standardizing on our knowledge. Okay. And we're getting to this shared understanding. So what do we mean by when we do a logical model? Or what does it mean when we produce a data product? What can I expect from your data product? What can I expect that when I get this file of the information that I need to make a decision, can I expect all the appropriate metadata? Are you paying attention to the metadata, to the definitions? Are you using ISO 11179 as your naming convention? Or do I need to go and try work out what QTY stands for? Or total, or whatever it is, or total amount? What is it that we're meaning? And so this is the graph that we're looking for. And sort of as Robert Abati used that data, information, knowledge, and wisdom, so they also, in knowledge management, they talk about data. Then information is individual learning. Knowledge, we get that patterns, which is team learning. And then they go into shared understanding, and then insight about the principles and the way in which things work. And so our decision behavior is here we almost in reactionary mode. You know, we see things are going wrong, and then we make a decision to react. Whereas when we understanding the principles of how the system works, we can anticipate. We can anticipate what needs to be done, and we can make the decisions, and then the risks reduce. So can you see the risks of reaction, of making the wrong decision when we're reacting? That's in a bad state. We really got to be careful of making the wrong decision when there's high risk on that thing. Okay, so that's what we talk about in terms of knowledge management. Right now, almost 4 weeks ago, I had Paul on, and we did trustworthiness of data, and basically what we described was what does good like if the CDO was to measure themselves. We had a talk on CDO self-measurement. Okay, if the CDO was to measure themselves, what sort of metrics would they use to measure themselves? And this is the important one to me. The first one, in terms of where we're really making a difference, is shared understanding and common behavior. Yes, we need to get all of these capabilities right, and shared understanding and common behavior lead to trustworthy data. It's a little bit like the data integration and interoperability and BI. If I'm working on a BI report and I see something on the report that doesn't make sense, and then I ask the people, where did you get this data from? And the answer is, oh, I'm not sure. Okay, let me go and have a look. And 2-3 days later, you're still trying to find it out. The confidence level drops quickly and radically. Okay, so, but if you were able to give them the answer, oh, well, here we go. If you were to log on to this and just look here, there you can see that's where that new business unit came from. And you know what, they did really badly last month, but that's because they just started. So that's okay. So this was the scorecard that we had for the CDO, embedded capabilities, sustainable, and we get to this point where things come together, shared understanding and common behavior, and then we lead into trustworthiness. Okay, so the trust drivers, this is important in terms of keep on giving the business trust. The more trust we give them, the more they're going to include us in allowing us to be transformative, where we can transform the organization. Okay, so one of the discussions we had in that session was measuring collaboration, and this is knowledge management. Okay, how do we measure collaboration? How do we make joint decisions? Some decisions are good in terms of having many people make it. Some decisions are bad. Some decisions are best made by one person, and then we don't have to get into all sorts of consultation. Some other decisions in terms of how we do things, and we've got many people involved, now you need a team of people to help you make the decision. So the very first thing you need to do is analyze the decision. What is the good team? What's a good approach to make it? And what's the technique for making those decisions? And here's the type of thing that we're talking about is if you have a goal, whatever it is, or the level of commitment that's low, then we start dealing with things in conversation. You and I talk about it. We have communities of interest. Okay, so in the beginning, the reason I call it a community of interest is, you know, we're both interested in this. Di is interested in data quality, integration. I'm also interested. Let's spend some time talking about it. Then we start to formalize it, and we get into what we call communities of practice. Now we're actually operating on a practice, and we are collaborating together along that scale. So it's about taking us up this journey, taking us up the path that we're walking. Now, what I wanted to show you was a set of team analysis that Modelware has been doing. So there are people behind that blue area. I wonder if any of you can guess where Debbie is sitting, which row Debbie's in. But this is the sort of analyzing the team that we do. So how do we work together as a team? These are the different roles. And you can see we're applying thinking styles and strengths. We also do a professional data management maturity assessment on the different individuals. And we use something called skills for the internet age in terms of SFIA. I don't know if any of you have worked with that. Evans, in terms of the UK, they use it extensively in government. You almost can't go and work on a government contract if you haven't got an SFI rating. Evan, have you experienced SFIA?
No, I haven't yet, but I've heard of it.
Okay. All right. So let's look at the way in which the knowledge, the way in which we've focused on our collaboration in Modelware. Okay, what are the numbers? Amal, are you referring to the numbers in SFIA? So SFIA has levels 1 to 7, and basically the level 1, for example, is assist. A follow. Follow means I can follow you. So when I come in the beginning, Amal might be the specialist in the area, and I get allocated a level 1. That means that I can follow you in doing things. Okay. Then the next one is assist. And then the next one after level 2 is assist. The level 3 is contribute, apply, and it goes all the way up to a level 7 where you're strategic and thought leader. So that's that almost ranking that at what level can you operate. Okay. And the nice thing about it is that SFIA has a skills matrix across data management, accounting, anything to do with organizations, any change management, they have that SFIA rating. Okay, so this is the way we look at our team. Amal, does that answer your question? And the DMMA, the numbers on the DMA actually stand for your maturity level. We almost use the same approach to doing an organizational maturity assessment. We do it with an individual. So we actually ask them, how many years have you had of experience of building a data strategy, of building a conceptual model, a data model? And we'll take you through all of those things, talking about yourself. So we have 3 ratings in a personal DMMA. What's been acquired? What skills have you acquired? What's required of your current job? And then the last one is what is desired? Where would you like to be? And then what we'll start to do is try to get you onto projects that give you that level of experience. Okay, now Omni down the bottom here is what we call keeping the line. And can you see it's in the middle of everything? 25, 25, 25. Everything's 25, 2.5, 3.5. Now we compare ourselves to Omni in terms of where we're at and some of our visualizations. So it's quite a helpful technique having that the most stable person around. They don't do anything wrong. They're not good. They're not bad. And everything's just hunky-dory with them. Okay. So here you can see the thinking. There's our thinking styles. These are all the different people. When we have a blue, that is CS stands for concrete sequential. Concrete sequential is following a process. People really like to do things one step at a time. They don't like jumping around. Okay, so don't disturb a concrete sequential, especially when they're having to do something, because the amount of time that it takes them to come back, and then they just start feeling uneasy. And in some cases, a concrete sequential may go back to the beginning. Okay, now maybe that's helpful sometimes. I was just thinking of Mr. Bolton. He's seriously concrete random. That's correct, Paul. I think you are concrete random. Just checking. So when Paul gets involved, he can jump around all over the place. Sometimes that jumping around all over the place doesn't get a whole lot done at the end of the day. When you look back, you say, well, what did I actually do? there's a challenge in sometimes in executing when you're very random, when you jump around. Okay. Now, please, it's also thinking. That means the way in which you think through a problem. Okay. The way in which you think through a technique, the way in which you study. That's what the thinking style is. So you get sequential, concrete sequential, and abstract sequential. Abstract sequential typically represents a scientist or a researcher that can work on abstract terms, abstract levels, but follows a recipe, follows a plan, follows a method. Okay, so researchers always try to look for that method, and then they follow the method. Similar to implementation framework, and that was quite interested when I was researching on implementation framework. The health area, especially in medicine, is they do a lot of drug research. And then when they talk about implementation, it's about taking those drugs and making it available on the market, and then making sure that people don't have those adverse effects and how is it affecting people. Not so much the research part of it, but then transforming it into implementation or operationalizing the drug. Okay. Abstract random, that's a person that is very aware of the things going on around them, the people, the challenges that they're facing, the feelings, the emotions, and they tend to be very focused on the team. Okay, it's about making sure that the team are working together and everyone is comfortable. And then the concrete randoms are those people like Paul and myself. So I think there you can see, I think 60 is me and 56 is Paul. Okay. Now, if you look at this team of ours, okay, you can see that we have 266. When I add up all the concrete sequentials, 266. And we've got 392 on concrete randoms. So we are outweighed. The concrete random people are outweighing everybody else. Okay. So that's a bit of a challenge. And when you start building teams, you've got to be careful of not having one too strong or too weak. Okay. Then we do the strengths finders, which is executing, influencing, relationship building. That's your change managers, and strategic thinking. And you may have heard us talking about a CDO. As we've done more and more analysis of all the data professionals, okay, we're tending to find that typically a CDO is very good at strategic thinking and relationship building. A thought leader tends to be good and high in strategic thinking and influencing. A specialist is very good at executing, okay, and in some cases influencing. All right, so they are the ones who said, I've got an implementation framework. They're the ones who design the implementation framework, and they convince people that this is the way we need to execute. Okay. Amal, yes, they do. It is the strengths is something called Gallup strengths or strength finders. There's a psychometric analysis. Thinking styles is also a set of same questions, and the DMMA is also a set of same questions. So everyone goes through the same thing. But you can see the differences in our team. So here we have, when it comes to strength finders, okay, can you see we are, once again, we're a little bit lopsided in terms of our relationship building is doing very well, and then our executing is not doing so well. And notice that I'll just share with you Howard Diesel is not too good at relationship building. Okay, there I'm one of the lowest in terms of relationship building. But then we have Debbie, who's one of the highest of relationship building. So now we're starting to understand how the different people in the teams work together. How do we collaborate? And so this is the graph that I use. And can you see here, automatically you can see that we're not that strong on this executing area. What does that mean? What does that mean? And then you have to be asking the questions, where are our weaknesses as a team? So our weakness as a team is going to be that daily in and out, operational, administrative, making sure everything gets done, executed, a day's work in a day. Okay, so we're going to drift around that one a little bit. Very good at relationship building. not too good at influencing and strategic thinking. So you can see that these Modelware is sort of really good at strategic thinking and relationship building. Okay, we do have these other people sitting on the edges, but that's where our strengths are, and you can sort of see them in the graphs coming along like that. Then when it gets to the abstract thinking, a lot of us, we're more at the sort of abstract random, and that's where we have that dominating effect. Now, when you start to measure everybody in the organization, the graph tends to fill out. But then what we do is we take a team. Okay, so now you can see there's only 4 people in this team. How do they operate as a team? Okay, and you can see in the operations team, it was quite a surprise when we saw this, is there we go, we're really strong at relationship building, we're really strong at strategic thinking, and executing is not our strong point. Okay, and you can see the totals coming out there is strongest in relationship building. Okay, weakest in executing. Okay, so now we understand what our challenges are and the way in which we commonly think and the way in which we're going to respond to certain things. So we now have to find ways of complementing that or getting around that challenge that we face. Okay, I like to use the standard deviation to almost say from our lowest to our highest, what's our standard deviation? And in a way, you're looking for, you're trying to increase that standard deviation because you're trying to find people on the other ends of the spectrum. So you're trying to balance very strong, very weak. You're trying to get a nice balance there. Now, if you're all in the same area, then you tend to be lots of the same people. Okay, please remember that by department, by this business unit, that business unit, you'd look for what is the most appropriate strength and thinking styles for that department. All right, so this is how we work on our collaboration, on our team building. And that's sort of the 2 areas that I wanted to focus on. Please remember the 2 areas is data management, ROI, and organizational memory and knowledge management, and collaboration is part of that knowledge management. All right. So that sort of brings me to the end of the presentation. Just like to, anyone would like to ask questions? Is there anything that you would like to understand? Anything that you can relate to?
Howard?
Yes.
Just actually on the strength finders, just perhaps a misunderstanding of some of the dimensions, but knowing we work closely together and know that, as an example, your output in terms of work, your focused work and all that is seriously high.
Yeah.
My opinion. And so you can get a lot out in a short amount of time, but you score really low on executing. So maybe I'm misunderstanding that what executing means.
Okay. So Paul, if you see on my executing, I'm not really low. So look at the difference between my relationship building and my executing. Okay. So can you see that I'm actually there at 26? Now, what you're bringing up a very important point here is that we all have to learn to work with our strengths. I'm not going to say the word weakness. I'm just going to say where we are naturally challenged. Maybe that's the right word. I don't. So, for example, Paul, I love working between 4 and 7 and 8 o'clock in the morning. There is nobody around. There's nobody getting in my way. Everything's down. Outlook's down. Spend the first 5 minutes. And I was saying to Veronica the other day is that one of my biggest challenges, if I start the day and I'm behind on my mails and I'm behind on this, then my random stuff kicks in and then I'm all over the place. But if I've got to the point where everything's neatly packed away and I'm ready and I've done the background work and I'm ahead of everybody, now I'm rocking for the day. Does that help you understand that thing? So I have to get up at that time in the morning, because if I open my eyes and I open my email at 8 o'clock in the morning and I haven't done anything, then it's a rocky day, unless it's a Saturday or a Friday or you know. I know that's where my weakness is.
Cool.
So you laughed.
So it's just an important point, because, as you said, it's not about dismissing it and saying, ah, shucks, I'm hopeless, I can't execute.
Yeah,
I need to find 100%. A way to execute on what I need to be executing on. Yeah.
That is so important. Or what I'd like to suggest as part of the team, right, that you do maybe allocate and allow your concrete sequentials to do more of the executing, but then stop disturbing them.
Yeah. Yeah, they can get on with it. Yeah. No,
don't ask a question. Almost lock them in a way. Don't interfere. And then also help them to switch off their emails and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And let them execute, because we as random people, we are going to disturb sequentials all the time, and they're not going to enjoy the interaction.
Cool.
Yes, Di.
Yeah, thanks, Howard. I've really enjoyed this session, and particularly about the thinking and the strengths. And I'm remembering about 30 years ago, I worked in a team. I worked for Systems Programming Limited, later Dimension Data.
Yeah.
And we had a team, and there was one person I could not get on with. And we did this kind of thing. And I suddenly realized it was about strengths and the other thing. And once I got to grips with that, then we just worked so much better together.
Right.
So, and I think this is what implementation in terms of people is about. It's about learning to work with the people that you work with, and
that's right.
How you can compensate, if you like, for their weaknesses and take advantage of their strengths.
Yes.
Absolutely incredible. Great stuff today. Thank you, Howard.
Right. And I really like what you're saying, because Veronica and I, we also opposite ends of the spectrums. And one of the things that she's very strong at, and they call her personality, they call it a defender personality. Okay. Now, when new ideas come about, her natural tendency is to defend the existing way of doing things. So now I can interpret that thing in two different ways, right? I can interpret that as she's disagreeing with me and doesn't like my ideas, or I can also interpret it to say, well, so what are the good things that we have at the moment, and what should we keep and be very careful not to lose, right? And when they respond to us, a lot of the times we think they're responding because they don't like what we say. And we get emotionally involved in that discussion. I don't know if you can relate to that, Di.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. It's about keeping that open mind. And I mean, I can see my lines. I'm not sure where I would fit here. I would love to see.
Yeah, we'd love to do that. Of course, we have a course. We have this thing that we go in, and you can do the thinking styles, and you can do the effort. I actually think you've done the thinking styles, Di. I think I remember seeing your name on it. But yeah, so
yeah, I'd love to do it. I like to know kind of who I am, and and who I can work with, and how I can work with anybody. I just need to know how, and it's about that how, and 100%. Making compensation, if you like, for myself and for other people, so that we can work together collaboratively. and
Yes, correct.
be successful together. Yeah.
Correct. And
A great
uh,
session,
another-
Howard. Thank you.
fantastic. And then also another situation that it actually comes into having meetings. You have these different roles, and one of the things that they actually advise is you can have people that come in there and they force their opinions on people. And what they actually suggest is those people should be the last to talk. So you get everybody's ideas and everything in the open, and then that person that comes across sometimes like that, they almost get given a time to talk where it's towards the end. Otherwise, they can destroy all of the discussions and the communication. And so if you know that you're that type of person, in a way you have to just back off and hold back until the meeting's ready for them to take on your view of life. Is everyone still there?
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm still here.
Yeah.
Great session, Howard. Thank you.
Fantastic. Any other questions? Does anyone have any other questions? Great. Thanks, everybody.
Great stuff.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
There's
Thank
everybody.
you. Yeah, great
Yes.
session. Yeah.
Thanks, Donna. Thank you very much. We look
Thank
forward to
you.
you. Thank you, Magella.
Thank you, Howard. All of you. Hey, I have a question, but it's about all of the webinar series because I haven't seen uh, your comment about to get the recordings for the sessions.
Oh,
Maybe
okay.
I'm out of the loop, or I don't know. But maybe it's my
No,
internet connection here. I don't know.
no, it's Magella. It's actually me. I've had a massive deliverable that I need to get out at the end of this week, so I've been a bit late in
Okay.
doing all the things, and I'll actually share it. We're hoping to get it out soon.
Okay, perfect. Okay. Howard, I have a comment. Okay, it's not a
Yes.
question. It's because of my experience on being outsourcing. I work with Schlumberger and
Oh, yes.
PDVSA, which Schlumberger is a national, is oil and gas.
Yes, yes,
Uh,
yes.
Okay, it's Schlumberger. Well, you know, because you are in Saudi Arabia, they are around the world
Yes.
in oil and gas. Yes, and I work in outsourcing for data management for create a big environment about data for A&P, exploration and production,
Yes, yes.
and PDVSA, which is the national oil company in Venezuela. But I was, we were many data stewards